Okay, I hope you did some reflecting on what you're grateful for and what your intentions are. And again, like I usually say when I do this, is really look at those things that we do together at the beginning. You know, what would do the 12-step formula, we do the self-confidence, we do all of that. Those things are so important to really take the time. It's great that we say it together. I'd really like everyone to start living it. Get the book Think and Grow Rich and do the exercise. I promise it will help you reach your goals. Okay, today I want to talk to you guys, and I want everybody to have some paper and pen so you can write, because I'm going to give you some ideas today about objection handling over the phone. Okay, so first thing that I want to do is I want to talk about what is the difference between an objection versus a condition. So I'm going to start with just giving a list of what some of what conditions could be, and talk a little bit about that, and then what objections are, because there's a difference. Okay, and the main difference is a condition is something that we can't change. Okay, so it's something in someone's life that's going to cause them not to put their home on the market, not to have us come out to have an appointment because of something going on in their life. So some of the conditions that I wrote down, and in the chat box, if you guys want to start writing some that you know of that you've heard, some of the conditions that we hear most often are that they were going to sell their home, but now they had a job transfer. That's why they were moving, and that job transfer is now not happening. So they're happy in their home and they're going to stay. A condition could be that they have a health issue. So right now they can't, there's no reason to have you out. Could be that they have actively have COVID and they can't have you out. That's a condition. There could have been a death in the family, and right now is not a good time for you to go over to their home to have an appointment. Because remember, I'm talking about objections over the phone when you're trying to make the appointment. The other one is, I always think this one is kind of a funny one, is, but I heard it at least once in my career, is that someone had a plan, their daughter, their dream was always for their daughter to get married in their home, walk down the long staircase or out in their backyard. And that to them was a condition, that they weren't going to let their daughter down, that they were going to have that wedding at the house. I know it's silly, but that could be a condition. It could be that it's their child's last year in high school, and that they really want to make sure that their child gets to have their last year with all of their friends. Okay, now there's more. Those are the ones that I wrote down. So nobody wrote in the chat box. That might mean that everybody was writing. So thank you for that. But what I'd like to see is there anybody else? A condition: no money, no income for buyers. Okay, so that's another one. So that something may have happened in their life that they can't move because they're not qualified to do the next move. That's exactly right. Okay, so keep writing those in there if you think of any other conditions. Now, the thing that I want to talk about these conditions is these are likely conditions. Now, you could ask somebody that, like, one of the conditions could be that they're moving, but the spouse is already moved. They're staying in the home, and they're just going to stay in the house. That's probably a condition, but it could also be that you ask them the question and say, well, with the market being the way it is, would it be worth 2 moves to realize where the market is and get the most equity out of your home today? Because a condition might be able to be played with if the value to the seller or to the buyer is big enough. So don't take a condition at face value, because sometimes you might miss something. I had a client once that was just that. They were buying a home, they were building, and it really was the best time for them to sell. So on his coaching call, we talked about this, and I said, well, ask him if he wants to just move somewhere temporarily, sell this house, because they had a buyer that was willing to pay really, right at the top of the market. And I remember Rodney saying to me, well, I'm not going to do that. He's got 4 kids. He's not going to want to make 2 moves. I said, well, what does it hurt to ask? Right? So he asked, and sure enough, the buddy said, you know what? I do have a place I can go. And if it will make me the most money for my family, it'll be worth the second move. Now, You and I both know that's not going to happen very often. But again, it's just an example of don't take a condition at face value, because you might be able to help somebody realize what's going on in the market and get them to have that value. Okay, so there may be some other conditions. Those are just some general ones I wanted to write out. So those are conditions, things that can't be changed. People aren't going to want to move because it's a condition, and that is going to have to play out before they decide to have you over to sell their home. Now let's talk about an objection. An objection is something that is still just a question in their mind, and we'll go through that in a minute, but let's talk about some objections we hear on the phone. If it's during the holidays, it could be the holidays. Right now, we're hearing COVID, and I don't mean the condition where they have COVID and you shouldn't go to their home, but just that COVID is still happening and they're unsure that they should be on the market. Another objection could be that they changed their mind. How many times have you guys called an expired and they say, oh no, we changed our mind? Okay. The other one is they have to talk to their spouse or their partner before they let you out for an appointment. Remember, these are all stall tactics, frankly, most of the time. So we want to look at this as, why do people give us objections? And before I do that, who else has any other objections you can write in the chat box? Any other objections that you've heard besides holiday, COVID, they changed their mind, they have to talk to somebody else? Any other objections that you're hearing these days? Going to wait for the prices to go up higher because the prices just keep going up higher. I'm in a lease until October. Now that could be a condition, and it could be an objection if you know how to help. And I'll go over that on how to help them. The house, where would I go? There's no inventory. These are great ones. Okay, so when I get into how to handle these, I'll start reading the chat box. Thanks for writing those in. Okay, good. All right, so let's talk about, why do people give us objections? People give us objections for lots of reasons. It could be that they don't know us. We're just calling them out of the blue. They don't know us, so it's a little awkward for them. Could be, okay? It could be just a stall tactic. They might want to do it, but they're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to get involved in that yet. That's a lot of work, and things like that. It could be that they had a bad experience with an agent. There's all kinds of reasons that they're going to give you an objection. And we just have to be understanding that it really is just something that's still either a question in their mind, or they're unsure if they want to have us over because of a past experience. Again, yesterday I was talking to a client and we were talking about things like this. And one of the things that I reminded her is, with every market that we're in right now, she's actually in Texas, and with the markets that we're in, can we all be in agreement that it's like one of the most unusual times that it's good to be a seller and it's good to be a buyer? I think it's our responsibility to make sure that everybody we talk to, that if they have even just an ounce of an inkling that they want to be in the market, it's our responsibility to make sure that we are strong enough and we don't back down from their objections, because if they want to be on the market or should be on the market, now is the time to do it. And if we aren't strong enough with the objection handling, we're not going to get to the appointment. We're not going to get them on the market, and they are going to miss this market. Okay. You guys can tell I'm Italian. I like to give a little guilt. Okay. All right. But it really is, and for me as a salesperson, I always struggled with that being pushy, because I was taught, don't be pushy, just, give people their space. So in my mind, before I started prospecting, I always had to think about, why was now the best time for them to be on the market, so that when I was handling their objections, my objective was to make sure that I didn't allow someone who wanted to be on the market, I didn't want them to miss out on the best market they could be in. Okay, so play around with that in your head when you're struggling with asking them again and handling these objections. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you how to handle an objection. And we have many of these. I'm going to look for my mouse because it will be easier for me. And I am going to scroll through these. And what I'm going to describe is, I want you to write the words isolate the objection. We're going to isolate it. We're going to affirm it. We don't have to necessarily agree with it, but we want them to hear that we have heard what they're telling us, because otherwise they get angry. Well, didn't you hear me? So we need to isolate it, repeat it, affirm it, and then move on. So let's look at some of these to go. So here, let's let one of the objections that I'm seeing a lot is there's no place to go. The house I was looking for is not available anymore. There's no inventory. If I sell this house, where am I going to go? So if I had that objection given to me, I would say, you're right. This market does have low inventory. And if when I come out, I could show you how I've helped other sellers like yourself sell their home, buy the next one, and not be homeless. If it works for you, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes of your time? What works better, afternoons or evenings? I isolated the fact that yes, there is low inventory. We don't have to tell them there's not low inventory. We don't have to disagree with them. It's true. But as strong agents in this system and in this company, we know that we can go out and we can call on sellers that aren't even on the market. We'll go find them a home that's not even on the market. So you're right. The inventory is low. And if I could show you how I've helped other families like you move in this kind of a market and not be homeless, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes to see if that would work for you? What's better, afternoons or evenings? So you can shift it just a little bit, use your own words, use your own personality. And if you could see, I'm even moving my body a little bit, because as I'm talking to them, I want them to hear my concern. Gosh, yeah, if I could, and the excitement, if I could help you like other people. Because over the phone, they don't hear us as much as what they would see when we're in person. Okay, so that's one objection. So let's look at what there's another one. Let's do the change our mind. So a lot of people tell us, especially the expireds, they tell us they're gonna change their mind. They've changed their mind. So especially right now, if they haven't sold their home in this market, we know there's usually something that's, something is up there. But let's just say they've changed their mind. It didn't work. It changed their mind. I would go on the approach of being disappointed with them. Oh, you had to change your mind. I'm sorry to hear that. And guys, you don't have to change much of what you say. So it's just the beginning on how you express isolate the objection, repeat and affirm. So, gosh, you changed your mind. I'm really sorry to hear you're not going to realize that dream. If I could show you how I've helped other people, I specialize in getting homes sold that didn't sell the first, second, or third time. So let's meet and see if I can help you with getting your home sold and move you to your dream. What's better, afternoons or evenings? So we're being disappointed with them. That's the mirror and match. But I don't want to stay in my mirror and match. I don't want to be disappointed through my whole conversation. I also then want to change it to giving them hope that they then, by working with me, that they're going to be able to realize their dream. Okay. One is the house I was looking for is not available anymore. So you can say to them, gosh, again, disappointed. Gosh, I'm sorry to hear the one that you loved is not there anymore. If we could find another home that would compare, and I could show you how I can find you that home, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes for us to meet? What's better, afternoons or evenings? And remember, when we say handling objection, I'm not giving them the answer over the phone. I'm just giving them reasons to hear me out. I have some things, and if you kind of do it in a way and say to them, and if what I come over, what I tell you doesn't fit for you, it doesn't make sense, that's okay. We'll walk away friends. But boy, I'd hate to see you miss out on a good market. Okay, so different things like that. I'm going to read, I'm going to go to the top here and see what else we have. So let's talk about the one about the lease. They have a lease till October. We're in February. That's 8 months from now, 7-8 months, depending on if it's the first or the end of October. So if you're in a lease till the end of October, and that's what they say to you, because you're calling maybe just listed, just sold, and you catch the renter, you can say, oh, so you have a lease till October. Fantastic. If I could show you how it's possible to get out of that lease without a lot of cost, if we looked at that together and we could find that that was a fact, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes to find that out together? What's better for you, afternoons or evenings? I haven't told them how we're going to do it. Haven't told them that it's for sure. But you and I, we all know that most leases have a buyout clause, and it might be worth someone to pay for 1 or 2 extra months in their rent versus waiting out and missing out on this market. Those are the things you want to tell them at the appointment, not on the phone. But that's where you can have in your mind, my gosh, this is somebody that could move, and it's my responsibility to find out how we can make them move now before October. Because what happens in October if interest rates go up? What happens in October if prices are even higher for that buyer? Okay, so it could be for a seller or for a buyer. Objection: worried they may lose their job. They have to live somewhere though. So you could say to somebody, okay, so they say, well, we're really afraid with the economy. I'm not sure what's happening in my company. And so you can say, that's a worry of a lot of people. We really don't know what's going to happen. Let me ask you, with what is happening right now, if something didn't change, would you make the move? And they would probably say, well, yeah, of course. Well, great. Let's get together and let's see what that looks like for you right now. And then you can make the decision after we meet. What's better, afternoons or evenings? See, the idea is we're just saying, look, I'm here to help. I'm the advisor, and I'm okay coming out and not getting your listing. I just want to make sure that if there is any possibility that in the information that I have will help you make that move, I want to get out to see you to make that happen. Okay, I'm going to keep looking here. Where would I go? There's no inventory. California is expensive. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure what that means, because I guess, Iris, if they're living in California, it is expensive. So if that means that what they're buying is going to be more expensive, you can say, you're right. Us living in California is expensive. See how I've repeated and affirmed what they said? And you can say, let me ask you, has anybody given you a value on your home? They'll say yes or no, right? So if they say no, say, well, let's look to see if the equity in your home allows you to purchase your next purchase up. If it doesn't, that's okay. We'll stay in touch till you can. What's better, afternoons or evenings? One of the things also with objections, and I was working with someone again yesterday, and we were talking about this. I want you to think about an objection as being another opportunity to close them. And we're going to talk about how many times it takes to close somebody. I'm going to write that down because I might forget. Okay, I'm going to write how many times to close somebody. But I do want you to think about that. Instead of when you get an objection that you get nervous and you think, oh my God, I have to answer this question again or answer something else. Think about it as, yes, they are still in the game. They still have questions, and I can isolate, repeat, affirm it, give them some hope, and close them for the appointment. So think about it as an opportunity, not something that's blocking you. Okay, someone wrote, waiting for prices to come down and fear. Sent my client the Compound Effect book the other day for a gift. Told him it was a great book. Okay, so they're waiting for prices to come down, probably for their purchase, I'm assuming. So again, it's the purchase. So if someone is saying their purchase is just going to be more, you can say to them, you're right. If you're moving up, your purchase is going to be more. If I could show you with where the interest rates are and where your monthly might be, it might even be the same. Wouldn't it be worth us sitting down together to find that out before you decide it's not the right time to move? What's better for you, afternoons or evenings? Okay. Someone wrote, can you give some examples of what people think are conditions but are really objections? Oh, that was from Lindsay. Yes. So some of the conditions are just like I gave the example of Rodney having somebody that didn't want to make a second move. They were building a house and they didn't want to sell their home because the home wasn't built yet. So that could be a condition. Some people won't move twice, but it could be. It could be, trying to think of the job transfer that canceled, and they tell you they love their home. But you have to think in your mind, do they? So you could say to somebody, well, I'm sorry, or maybe good for you that you get to stay here, that your job transfer didn't happen. So I'm sorry your job transfer didn't happen. Let me ask you, as you were thinking about buying that next home in the next city or state, let me ask you, does this home have the same amenities that you were looking for in the next home? They'll say yes or no. If they say no, then you've got an in. Great, then let's see if here we can find you that home with those amenities. Why not get that home here since you're going to stay? So it's just a matter of asking, is that condition really a condition? And I don't know of any others. So Lindsay, if you have another one, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking of any others that would be a condition that might be an objection. I know, for example, I use the word health or death in the family. And unfortunately, most of us have had that experience in our life. And even though, yes, if you're catching somebody right when there's a death in the family, today might not be the right time, but you might say to them, gosh, you must be really overwhelmed. I don't want to err on holding back, in respect, I want to hold back, but I don't want to be in error and holding back too much. So let's be in agreement. Would you still need to sell your home? They say, well, yes, of course, but we have to go through the funeral and la, 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 la. Well, of course you do. So let's do this because you have so much to think about. Let's set that appointment now for a week out. Do you think a week out is enough or do you need 2 weeks? It's just setting the appointment. And then if you set an appointment that far out, you're going to go ahead and call somebody. You're going to call them every week just to check in, not to say, can I come over now, but just, I'm calling to check in. I know you guys are still, having a lot of things going on. Any questions for me? I was thinking about you guys. Send them a sympathy card, that type of a thing. Stay in touch with them. So that could be one. Someone wrote, waiting for kids to graduate. Now, if they're in their last year of high school, and I don't know how it works in all cities, states, counties, but I know where I sold real estate, if a child was in their last year of high school, sometimes even their junior year of high school, you could do a petition to the school board and ask for your child to stay in school. So you need to know that. Do your school districts allow that? So if I got that objection, I would say, well, gosh, I've sat down with the school board and I've gotten the rules for when someone is moving in the last year or two of high school. If I could show you what that could look for you and your family, wouldn't it be worth 10 minutes? Well, what's better for you, afternoons or evenings? Again, I'm not telling them that I have the answer or what the answer is. I'm telling them I have the answer and I'd like to share it with them. What are the circumstances? Okay. All right, so those are some of the ones that I would consider that we might think are conditions, but they're really just an objection. And I think even if there's something really tough, again, like a death or health, you can just ask and say, I've erred in the past. Of course, give your sympathies. My sympathies. I know I'm calling at the wrong time, and I have erred in the past with people. You had your home on the market. When is going to be a good time that you're going to need to be back on the market? Get that agreement and get that moving forward, because for right now, for today, it might be a condition, but next week they might be completely ready. And then they're waiting for someone to be on the market. I can give you an example of a health issue. I was just thinking of somebody, this was actually quite a few years ago, someone I was coaching, they called and expired in the seller was so angry. I mean, and we know expires can be angry, but this guy was he was very angry. And so John, I was coaching this man named John. So he hung up the phone, and on his coaching call, he told me about the experience. And I said, I want you to, before our next call next week, I want you to call that expired back. And he's like, I'm not going to call him. He's told me his wife has brain cancer and they just found out. And no, I'm not calling him. I said, you have to have that done before your next coaching call. Next coaching call came, he never called the guy. So I said, John, if you do not call him by the next coaching call, now that's 2 weeks, we're going to get on the phone together and do it. We're going to do it together on the phone. So he did call the seller before our call on his own. And the gentleman said to him, I am so grateful you called back. He said, I was such a jerk. Use probably a different word. He said, I was such a jerk to every agent that called me. My home expired on the same day we found the terrible information about my wife. And I was so angry. Nobody's called me back but you. Guys, we are in the middle of people's lives, and lives can be good and lives can be bad. But in those moments, they still might need us. So you have to be strong enough to be okay. And if you do it in a way that's not offensive, then it can make it can work. Now, we don't want to just ignore the fact that there was an issue. But if John had said to this gentleman on the first call, he may or may not have settled down. But if John had called quicker, knowing that he was just angry about something else, then that would have been better for both. Okay, so just remember, their reaction to us doesn't even mean that they don't want to talk to us. Something's going on in their life right now. They could have just gotten into an argument with their spouse, their kid. They just found this information like John's expired. So just really be careful that you don't take their reaction to you too much at heart. It's, again, our job and our responsibility to make sure, do they still need us? Okay. All right. Now I want to talk about, I think I have time. Yes. I want to talk about how many times it takes to close somebody, whether it's for an appointment or whether it's if you're at the appointment and you're getting them to sign the contract. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. I talked to Lindsay, and I talked to someone yesterday, and they told us that they thought it was only 3 times. It is a scientific fact that it takes usually 5 to 8 closes before someone will tell us yes. So the man we were talking to yesterday said 3, which is accurate, because honestly, most people can tell another person no 3 times. Think about when you go to the store, someone asks, can I help you? You say, no, I'm just looking. It's reflex. It's how we have been taught. Okay. Most people can tell you no 3 times. And I need to find, because I know it's scientific. I know there's something out there. So I need to Google this and find out. And if I find it, I'll send it to everybody. But so 3 times, most people can say no. On the 4th time, you probably lose half the population that can no longer say no to somebody. And then each time, 5th time, you lose another percentage. 6th time, you lose another percentage. 7th time, you lose another percentage. So every time you feel strong enough to close again and again, it gives you that opportunity for someone to be at the point where they're like, okay, I can't say no anymore. Obviously, it's subconscious, but that's what happens. So be strong enough to be able to close 5 to 8 times. Now, there's going to be people. One of them, my dad, his name was John Manella. He could tell you no 100 times and mean it. So there are going to be some people that will just tell you no, but you don't know that until you get to the 5th or the 8th try. Okay. So remember, your closes don't have to sound different. So if someone keeps saying the same thing, I'm not sure, I changed my mind, and you're handling that objection and you're going to close it and say, if I could show you, it's okay. They're not hearing it like you're hearing it, because you say it all day long. On every objection, you're saying the same thing. So it seems so repetitive, but to them, they're not hearing it like you're hearing it. So be okay with your objections sounding similar. I'm sorry, your closes sounding similar to the objections they're giving you. It just remember, hey, that's not a problem. If I could show you blank, which is related to their objection, like we just demonstrated earlier, and then close them. What's better for you, afternoons or evenings? It's going to just become part of what is going to need to happen. And it's very uncomfortable in the beginning. I promise you, you will be uncomfortable, but I also promise you, you'll get results this way. Okay. Now, one of the biggest, I think, closes, once you get to 5 or 6 and you're feeling nervous and you don't know of another close, say to them, gosh, before I let you go, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you one more time about being in this market. What would be better for you to meet with me, afternoons or evenings? Give it one last shot. I have one agent that she started doing this, and she literally at an appointment. I know we're talking about on the phone, but I can't resist. She will add an appointment, start to close after she's closed 5 or 6 times and the people are still telling her no. She starts to close up her folder. She starts putting things in her bag and people start to relax. And then she says, gosh, before I go, I just have to ask you one more time. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you just one more time. Let's go ahead and sign this contract. And 25% of the time, which is pretty good, she'll get that signature on that statement. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you one last time. Okay. So guys, let's just do a quick review. There's a difference between a condition and an objection. Test those conditions respectfully to see if that condition could be overcome and become an objection. We have to isolate the objection. We need to let them know that we've heard what they've said. We repeat it, we affirm it, do it with some emotion, do it with disappointment with them, do it with whatever might be coming, and then switch into the hope of if I could show you, and then close them on meeting with you for an appointment. Okay. All right, guys, I hope you took notes. I know that this recording will come out. I hope it's helpful. Objection handling can be so much fun when you get in the groove of it and you start to see how people respond to you, and you do it out again of responsibility and of contribution, because now, gosh, now is, if it is the best time to be on the market, whether you're a seller or a buyer. So please don't miss out on helping people get to where they need to go. All right. All right, you guys, let's do our closing affirmations.